Hey there, welcome to the inaugural Customers AI podcast. It's going to be the Customers AI podcast and not the Resolver, because I pitched Larry on the Resolver title and I got a blank stare. So we're going to go with the Customers AI podcast for the time being. I have Larry Kim with me. Larry's the founder of Customers AI. And today we're going to talk about some history in our industry and hopefully some other stuff. Larry, what's up? What's going on?
I'm so excited to have a podcast. Global domination is at hand. This is so wonderful.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's get started. So I have a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about, but the first thing I kind of want to talk about is just a little bit of history on the industry. And you don't have to get super detailed, but just like, where have we come from so we can understand where we are with this identification stuff?
Sure. It's not new. It's been around for more than 5 years, and kind of the first generation kind of ID resolution is, and just taking a step back, we're talking about the ability to identify people who are on your website who may or may not have, kind of identified themselves, like by filling out a form or something like this. So
this like magical thing where you can land on a website, you've never told the website who you are, but there's actually an ability to know what your email address is.
Well, that's the goal. I would say, it's been historically elusive, like in terms of the ability to deliver on that in the past because of certain limitations on accuracy. I can just describe it as that these first generation vendors like Retention or Wunderkin were really dependent on these third-party data sources that provided like ad remarketing data, ad targeting data, which had some accuracy. It wasn't zero, but it was it was low. It was like 5%, 10%, 15% kind of accuracy, and that's not necessarily all wrong, but it's difficult to be emailing that many people the wrong emails.
It makes you question, like, what do you use this data for? Because there's some low stakes uses for it. Like you and I were talking recently about just remarketing audiences and stuff like that.
Absolutely,
it's pretty low stakes.
Like with ads, if I had $1 for every time I had a stupid ad, it would all be gazillionaires, right? So I think that the ad channels, it's perfectly appropriate to use, this type of data where there's 10 or 20% signal that's accurate, because you're buying impressions by the thousand. There's not really a huge negative externality of like a hit to your domain reputation if you show an ad to the wrong person who doesn't click on it. It's kind of like no harm, no foul. And so if you can get a little bit of signal there, I think it's totally appropriate. I think it's just really difficult to be having this whole huge promise of ID resolution being kind of put on the hopes hinging on this ad data that's kind of hit and miss, more miss than hit, actually.
Yeah, it's this weird thing where the data's been repurposed for what could be, if it worked, a really interesting use case, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But in most cases, and now Customers AI excluded, in most cases it doesn't really work very well at all. Like, you start emailing people who probably never have had anything to do ever with your website, and maybe you do that in like 70 or 80% of cases, which is yeah.
So I think that's a challenge. Certainly, it is a magical sounding channel, like the promise of website visitor identification. Like, it does make you wonder, like, if vendors really can ID the people who are in your site, and you're spending all this money on like ads and all these other things, like, why the hell wouldn't everybody be using it? And I think the answer is that the people who know more about this understand that it's just like I said, hit and miss, and it's not everyone's cup of tea. But that's also an opportunity for a vendor, like Customers AI, who could critically think through the problems and create data and software that doesn't have these crazy negative externalities of like wrong emails and stuff like this. And I think that's what we're working on here.
Yeah, and we're close. Like we are significantly, or an order of magnitude, I would say, better than the competition. If you break it down, there's tons of different ways to look at how our data compares. You could do what we call a sending test, where you look at the emails that get sent to our contacts versus a competitor. That's one way. And then you have to look at that in light of how many spam complaints you get. That's a really important part of that analysis. But then you could also look at us just as, if you have a contact, somebody's on your website and you know who they are, you could check what Customers AI says that person's email or name is, and you could check what the competitor says. So there's like a whole bunch of different ways to skin this cat. Seems like most of our customers want to see what we call sending tests, the bottom line in their ESP. And I guess like where I'm going here is we'd encourage you to do that and compare us, because the difference is pretty shocking when you start looking at the spam complaints, the amount of revenue you can make off these contacts, the quality of the contact, the revenue percent, on and on and on.
Yeah, we've got brands, medium-sized brands like 5, 10, 20 million GMV making, 6 figures plus in incremental revenue from campaigns and email flows that are being triggered by the data that we're providing. And this is all incremental stuff because we allow the kind of, more native data signaling, like if you're using Klaviyo or whatever, like those systems get their chance to try to re-identify people or identify people first, and then only we'll wait an hour or something, and if Klaviyo still can't figure out who the heck that person is, we'll take our shot, and all this ROI is incremental to that.
Yeah, so we say we're last in the waterfall. We give like everybody else a chance, a swing at bat, and then we come in last and see what we can do with the information that we have. And usually that's actually quite a bit. Before we jump on to the next topic, I want to clarify something. We've talked a lot about this like magical identification stuff. You ID somebody that you've never known on your website, but that's actually not all that we do. Right?
That's right. There's two use cases for website visitor identification. One is the re-identification of your existing customers and prospects who have previously purchased or signed up for something, and that is
someone who's given you an email address before in any way,
and fully opted into whatever like SMSing or marketing permissions that are required. And you might think like, well, that doesn't sound that hard, but browsers in 2025 are not your 2018 variety, and they're just torching third-party cookies, and even first-party cookies aren't being like honored for very long, and so it's actually not easy for your typical email service provider or CDP to keep track of the people who've signed on. It's not just the browsers expiring everything. It's also like people have multiple devices. So like you may have signed in on your computer, but then you visit them on your cell phone, and there's just no cookie, there's no linkage. You could be behind a VPN, you could be behind a firewall, you could be on a different browser on the same computer even, or in incognito mode, and or just deleting your cookies. So there's like this notion of cookie churn. It's like the cookies that are being set, you're losing like 5, 10, 20% of them every month. And so the ability to re-identify, your customers and prospects becomes significantly diminished over time which is problematic because flow emails, like automated email flows like cart abandonment, product abandonment, site abandonment, like this welcome back series, win back series. This could be as little as 2% of the volume of emails being sent by your ESP, but typically generate 20 to 50% of the email attributed revenues.
It tells you a lot about how important personalization is, because this is what flows are, right? You're somebody's interested in a particular product or looking around, and you start re-engaging them, compared to a campaign where you're just like hoping and praying.
Yeah, it's like a newsletter. Somebody in my million people might be thinking about this. So like all these flow emails that are like a small percentage of the emails sent that generates half the revenue, these are all dependent on your ESP receiving signals. John Cairo is back on the website looking at this specific product, or Larry Kim's back, and he just abandoned this checkout with these items in it. The linkage is just like between the device or browser and the identity is very brittle. So back to the original question, which is like, what does Customers AI do? The first idea is that we can re-identify the first-party contacts and customers that have already signed up for something in the past in a very robust way that results in very, very small amount of cookie churn. Any questions on that one?
No, not really. I mean, just to bolster the case here, this is not something that we made up. If you look at Klaviyo, if you're familiar with Klaviyo's offering, they started offering a service in the fall of 2024, I think, called Extended ID, which was to fix this problem that we're talking about, cookie churn, or however you want to look at it. They released a product that was just for this, retargeting and re-identifying your first-party contacts, which is a big part of what Customers AI does. And it just kind of goes to show you that there's a need. Like, they built into their product a fix for this. The problem with that fix is we're still able to re-identify, in some cases, like 5 times more signal. So they've done an okay job. They leaned on some pretty simple identifiers, and they made a big improvement. But we actually go way, way further than that.
Yes. So even versus Klaviyo Extended ID, it varies by website and brand, of course, because different brands have different types of traffic and sources and stuff like this, or their users prefer certain environments. But the worst I've ever seen is a 30% lift off of our re-identifications off of versus Klaviyo Extended ID, and then the best I've ever seen is like 10x. So it's like, wow. we're talking like significantly more re-identifications, and that's what's powering those automated flows, which is powering 50% of your revenue.
Right. Okay. So you can use Customers AI to do re-identification of people who are already opted in and ready to receive emails, which is a big use case for us. And then you also, if you want to, have the option to do third-party contacts. That means that's that magical ability to recognize somebody who's never been to your website and start emailing them. But that's not a requirement to work with us. That is one part of the offering. If you're comfortable with it, you can do it. We're really good at that, but you don't have to use us to get a whole bunch of value based on ROI in your Klaviyo account. The third party or first party, like, it's kind of confusing. Like, third party just means like new contacts that haven't ever signed up for anything yet that we can identify, and we're really good at doing that. As I was saying earlier, we think our competitors are, actually we know our competitors are like 5 to 10% correct. We're closer to the opposite. So like 70-85% correct rather than 85% error, and that's
pretty good. Keep in mind, first-party data isn't 100% correct. Like there's still going to be bots filling out forms. There's still going to be people filling out forms with stupid emails. Like it's very very high. First-party data. Don't get me wrong, that's the gold standard, but it's not 100%. And so if we can get you new website visitor identification at almost first party like accuracy, then that's I think it's pretty compelling. And the hardest thing to do in D2C e-commerce is to get a new customer. It's just, that's the most expensive thing to do. It's just that'll make or break your company, and that we think this is a lot of leverage in kind of. It's so frustrating. You get people, you spend all this money on influencers and ads to convince them to buy your thing, and your conversion rates might be like 5, 6, 7%. If I'm being charitable, like it's often lower. But like this could give you a second at bat, to try to convince people, follow up with people, in a relevant, timely way. To really have them understand your key differentiators and everything about what makes you so special. And
this is the sorry, finish up.
I just think this is like the most leveraged, single most leveraged channel in marketing in 2025 right now. To accurately identify and follow up with timely follow-ups, emails, flow-based emails on people who are this close to buying but didn't is that's the huge incrementality and a huge value.
Any like I've talked and worked with a lot of advertisers in the last few years, and anyone you talk to who's really pushing the limits, it always boils down to getting new customers. Like the conversation is always about new customers. Oh, we're showing our ads, the frequency is way too high, and we're showing our ads to people who've already bought. And this is like such a big part of good advertising. And like you said, it's a second chance to potentially capitalize on those people. In fact, I was just looking at a Klaviyo report for a customer, and in the contacts that we newly identified for them, so this is the third-party world now, we newly introduced some contacts to them. The predicted LTV for those contacts for the next 365 days, using Klaviyo's metrics, was $1 million. And I don't think they pay us anywhere. And I wish they did, but I don't think their bill is $1 million a year with Customers AI. Not yet.
Yeah, so it's like I said, the new user acquisition is the hardest thing in the world, and then and different vendors have ways to then monetize different brands, like D2C e-commerce brands have ways to once they have a customer, they can deploy their retention efforts, and we can assist with that, because like once they become a customer, we can make sure that you don't lose signal on that customer. If they move to another house, or if they get a new device, or if their cookies expire, or or if the brand migrates to a different ESP, like there's so many things we can do here to make sure that you can continue to extract both the LTV from the existing customers, and also to produce the emails and contact information for the new prospects who haven't yet signed up for your stuff.
Yeah, when I was thinking about it this morning, it's almost like we're able to augment the LTV of the whole account in some ways.
Significantly, emailing, and like this whole email channel is all about having the data. This. If you don't have these connections and data, you're just basically a big old newsletter pile, right? It's not really I get newsletters from restaurants that I visited 4 years ago in a different country, and when I was there, and I was like, I'm not gonna buy this thing. Why do you keep sending me this junk? Yeah. It has to do with the quality and the recency and the volume of data, and we're just really super powering up these ESPs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Well, this was a really good convo. I enjoyed it. Is there anything we missed? Is there anything else we should talk about before we go? We're going to probably spend some time digging into all these like little topics we touched on and many more things over the next, well, however long we run this podcast. But is there anything you want to chat about before we go?
Visitor identification. We will figure out who visited your site that is new, and also re-identifying people who have previously purchased from your customers. You can use that data to then trigger automated email flows or campaigns, and to power like all sorts of other interesting follow-ups like postcards or ad retargeting, etc. And just having this is pretty fundamental to it's garbage in, garbage out. Like if you have really great data, you'll have really great campaigns.
Well, before we go, we do have some sort of ROI guarantee, don't we?
Yes. Customers who, God, these operators have like 1 billion products to try out, and we just want to make sure that, we're standing by the quality and impact of this data, and we're happy to offer, a 5x minimum ROI guarantee for people on the Klaviyo Shopify platform, because why that is just easier for us to measure. Like they're a little bit more advanced in their ROI tracking capabilities, and it's more standardized. But look, we're so sure about the quality of this data that we will, stand by a 5x ROI guarantee around the value of orders placed versus the cost of our platform, which is I think is a bargain. We have companies doing 20, 40x ROI, and what we're saying is 5x is the minimum. So give it a try.
Yeah, and the other thing is this implementation is quite simple. Like this is not really complicated. Get your engineers involved and like pull out your hair to get this going. This is like maybe a few minutes ish.
Putting on the pixel and you kick up your feet and watch the orders come in.
Exactly. In some sense, that's actually kind of true, believe it or not. But try it. Yeah, give us a try.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thanks. Bye.